You feel it if you're a young man today. The suspicion, the assumptions, the doors that seem harder to open than they were for your dad. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Are you being held accountable for mistakes you never made? Are young men today paying the price for the sins of previous generations? Stay with me here, because this isn't about playing victim or pointing fingers. This is about something way more important. Understanding the world young men are inheriting and whether we're having an honest conversation about it. Look, I get it. This topic makes people uncomfortable. But if we can't have real conversations about the challenges facing young men today without everyone assuming the worst, then we're part of the problem. Here's what we're going to explore in this video. First, we'll look at the social landscape, how young men are navigating a world where masculinity itself has become controversial. Then we'll dive into the economic reality, and trust me, the numbers here are eye-opening. And finally, we'll talk about relationships and dating, because this is where a lot of young men are feeling the disconnect most intensely. But here's the thing I need you to understand before we go any further. This isn't about who has it worse. This isn't Oppression Olympics. This is about recognizing that when we don't acknowledge someone's legitimate struggles, we push them toward people who will, and those people aren't always telling them the truth. Let's be honest. Let's start with something every young man has experienced. Walking into a room and immediately being aware that some people see you as a potential threat before you've even opened your mouth. Now, here's where this gets complicated. The generation before you, some of them absolutely abused their power. In workplaces, in relationships, in positions of authority, the Me Too movement didn't come from nowhere. It came from real experiences, real trauma, real abuse that was ignored for too long. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Collective trauma can create collective suspicion. And while older generations may have created the problem, young men today are inheriting the skepticism. Think about it. You're 22, fresh out of college. You've been told your whole life to respect women, to be an ally, to call out bad behavior. You've done everything right. But you walk into a workplace or a social setting, and you can feel it. You're starting from a deficit of trust that your father's generation created. You're expected to prove you're one of the good ones. And if you ever question this dynamic, well, that's often seen as proof that you're actually part of the problem. Here's another layer. Your dad grew up in a world where masculinity had a clear definition. Provider, protector, stoic, strong. And yeah, a lot of that was toxic. A lot of that hurt men and women alike. But when we tore that down, which, let me be clear, needed to happen, we didn't really replace it with anything coherent. So now you've got young men asking, okay, what am I supposed to be? And instead of clear answers, you get, figure it out, and also don't mess it up because we're watching. Now let's talk about money. All right, let's talk economics, because this is where the generational gap gets really clear. Your father's generation, the boomers and older Gen X, they bought houses for 3 times their annual salary. You're looking at properties that cost 8 to 10 times what you make, if you can even save for a down payment while paying off student loans they didn't have to deal with. But here's what really stings. Those same policies and economic decisions that benefited previous generations, they're now making it harder for you. They pulled up the ladder, and now they're asking why you haven't climbed up yet. And if you point this out, you're entitled. You're lazy. You're not working hard enough. Never mind that you're working 2 jobs in a side hustle just to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. And here's the kicker. Remember how we talked about masculinity being in flux? Well, economically, there's still this expectation that men should be providers. That hasn't gone away in many people's minds. But the economic system that allowed your grandfather to support a family on a single income while your grandmother stayed home, that's gone. Your dad could graduate college without crippling debt and buy a house in his 20s. That's gone too. So you're being held to the provider standard of previous generations without access to the economic conditions that made that standard achievable. But nowhere is this generational tension felt more than in dating and relationships. And that's where things get really complicated. Let's talk about dating, because this is where young men feel the disconnect most intensely. Previous generations of men, they dated in a world with different rules. Women had fewer economic options, fewer social freedoms, and let me be absolutely clear, that inequality was wrong. Women should have equal opportunities, equal pay, equal choices. But here's what's true at the same time. Those changes have fundamentally altered the dating landscape. Women don't need men economically the way they might have in the past, and that's a good thing. But it means men need to offer something different now, and many young men weren't taught what that is. Your dad might have attracted your mom with stability and a steady job. You need emotional intelligence, communication skills, vulnerability, partnership, things that the men before you were often actively discouraged from developing. And here's another thing. Women today, rightfully, have higher standards and stronger boundaries. They've seen what their mothers and grandmothers tolerated, and they're not doing it. That's their right. But from a young man's perspective, you're facing more rejection, more competition, and more scrutiny than previous generations, while being told that expressing frustration about this makes you problematic. And this is where it gets dangerous, because when mainstream conversations don't acknowledge these challenges, when every time a young man says, "This is hard," he's met with, "Well, women have it harder," something happens. He goes looking for people who will validate his experience. And sometimes those people have really toxic agendas. They'll tell you women are the enemy. They'll sell you shortcuts and manipulation tactics. They'll radicalize his legitimate frustrations into something ugly. And we wonder why this keeps happening. It's because we're not creating space for honest, nuanced conversations about what young men are actually experiencing. So, here's what I want you to understand, whether you're a young man watching this or someone who loves one. Are young men paying a price for previous generations' mistakes? In some ways, yes. Socially, economically, and in relationships, there are real challenges that aren't being adequately addressed. But that doesn't mean women or other marginalized groups are the enemy. The answer isn't going backward to some imaginary golden age that was only golden for some people. The answer is building something new. It means, one, acknowledging that multiple things can be true at once. Women faced and still face serious disadvantages, and young men today face unique challenges. Both can be real. Two, creating mentorship, not just criticism. Young men need guidance on what healthy masculinity looks like, not just lectures on what it shouldn't be. Three, economic reform that addresses generational wealth inequality. This isn't a gender issue, it's a class issue affecting everyone under 40. And four, honest conversations that don't demonize people for sharing their experiences. Look, if you're a young man watching this and you felt unseen, unheard, or unfairly judged, I see you. Your struggles are real. The world you're inheriting is different from the one your father knew, and in many ways, it's harder. But don't let your legitimate frustrations be weaponized by people selling you hate. Don't let your pain be turned into someone else's villain origin story. You're not responsible for your father's sins, but you are responsible for your own choices. Build something better. Be something better. Not because you owe it to anyone, but because you deserve the kind of life that comes from being the kind of man you'd be proud to be. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. What's one challenge you're facing that you wish people understood better? Let's actually have this conversation. And if you found value here, subscribe for more honest discussions about topics everyone's thinking about but nobody wants to talk about. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.